Continuing our investigation on the true cause of disease, continuing our discussion on the microbes. It's a fascinating subject. In fact, it is totally different to what I was taught. But there are many scientific greats, professors, doctors who believe in pleomorphism, which is many forms. You see, we change roles all through our life. I'm not dressed now the way I'm dressed on my morning walk. I'm not dressed now the way I'm dressed when I'm sleeping. I'm not dressed now the way I'm dressed if I go to a wedding. We change. These microbes change according to their environment. One of the most amazing things about life forms on planet Earth is their ability to adapt and adjust. Now, this can be scary, and it can also be good. Some people are still alive even though what they're putting in their body is poison. But the good news, I've met some of these people, their intellect is awakened through education and they begin to make changes and the body starts to work a lot better as the body's given the right environment. At the time of Pasteur, there was a contemporary called Antoine Beauchamp. He was also a Frenchman. And he did not believe the theory that Louis Pasteur put forth, which is germs cause disease. He said that totally defies reason. You see, you will only find these germs, so to speak, where they're well fed, in the right environment. Antoine Beauchamp spent much of his life looking through a microscope, and he could change the role of these microbes by changing their environment. He said germs don't cause disease, they're the result of unhealthful conditions. So even though Florence Nightingale and Antoine Beauchamp never met, they basically had the same theory. And there are many modern writers that do. Dr. Robert Young, he's written several books, a fascinating book called Sick and Tired. He's an American doctor. And he actually shows blood slides, live blood analysis in his book of the changes as the environment changes. One day Antoine Beauchamp got a dead cat and he wrapped it in an airtight container. He came back 4 months later. As he opened it, there it was, dust. Now, there might have been a few bones, they take a bit longer. What brought cat back to dust? Now in the bush, I know in Australia, if a kookaburra dies, what happens to the kookaburra? Well, the worms come up, help out, the dung beetles come out, the blowfly lays its maggots, the dingo has a nibble, the crow has a nibble. They're all contributing to bringing kookaburra back to dust. But in Antoine Beauchamp's experiments, it's airtight. No blowfly, no dingo, no crow can have a nibble, no worm can help. What brought cat back to dust? Do you know the microorganisms that were an integral part of living, running cat, as the environment changed, they changed. They now became the cleanup team. As the environment changed, the exterminator. As the environment changed, the undertaker. Till eventually these microbes had brought cat back to dust. With great excitement, Antoine Beauchamp looked at the dust under his microscope. It was alive with microbes. You see, a basic law of science states nothing's created and nothing's destroyed. It just changes form. And this is why we have compost bins. Here's my garden. Here's one of my plants. Let's say it's my celery plant that keeps seeding and reshooting, and I've had them for 10 years. Not the same plant, but this is baby of mother plants. I put compost in my soil, and when I put compost in my soil, I'm putting microbes in my soil, because compost is full of microbes. that were once responsible for the development of the apple, and then responsible for the ripening of the apple, and then no one ate the apple, so they're now responsible for the rotting of the apple. They just change roles according to the environment. When I put this compost in my soil, it enriches my plant, and the reason it does that is because these microbes now play another role. They once played a role of breakdown, and they may play that again. Now they play another role, and that is the breakdown of the heavy metals and the minerals in the soil. They are also responsible for the absorption of the heavy metals that have been broken down and the minerals into the plant. They are responsible for protecting the plant against harmful pathogens. They are responsible for the nourishment of the plant. The plant knows that it needs those microbes. So 50% of the fuel that the plant makes from photosynthesis, it sends back down to the roots to feed the microbes. It's the law of life. The law of life is we take with one object in mind, and that is to give again. The law of life is written on every blade of grass. It's on every plant in nature. Everything creates only to give. In fact, that whole plant is created to give to us to eat. Yeah. Everything takes with one purpose, to give again. And the best illustration of that was the life of Jesus. The great God of heaven took a body and then he gave that body for us, our salvation. It is the law of life. The law of death, is taking to keep. And if you take to keep, that's the law of death. Now I'm going to take this somewhere you may never have taken it before. I'm going to take it inside the human body. When we were in our mother's utero, our gut was sterile. No microbes. When we were born, and I'll go into this in a bit more detail tonight when we look at the gut in detail, when we were born, our gut was literally showered with our mother's microbes, with our first few breaths, with the colostrum that's in the mother's breast in the first few days before the milk comes in, full of microbes. As those microbes come in, they form a thick turf wall around the villi that line the gastrointestinal tract. Those microbes now play a very important role in the gut, in the body. They are responsible for the similar things as in the soil. They are responsible for the final breakdown of our foods. They are responsible for the absorption of our food across that border wall and into the blood. The Bible says the life of the flesh is in the blood. It's not part of us till it's in the blood. These microbes protect the blood against any harmful pathogens that may be in the gut. These microorganisms are responsible for nourishing those cells. Remember, they're remade every 3 to 5 days, these little cells that line the gut. No wonder Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut. If that is compromised, then we've lost our border protection. If that is compromised, we're now not getting the proper nourishment into our body. Are you starting to look at them a little bit differently? These microbes? Let me give you another example. Mother hen is sitting on 10 eggs. I come along and shake violently one of the eggs and put it back under mother hen. I come back 2 weeks later and I hear chirp chirp and I see little chickens breaking out of their eggs. Where's the egg I shook? What's mother hen done with it? Do you know what she'll do? She'll boot it out of the nest because there's a bad smell coming off from that egg. And I think we all know bad smells come off these, don't they? That's why you don't have your compost bin outside your back door, do you? You have your compost bin down in the garden. We empty our bins out, you call them trash cans, every day. Otherwise, there's bad smells coming out where things are starting to break down. What did I do to that egg? I caused massive cell damage. And when I caused massive cell damage, I changed the environment. So the microbes now put off their suit of clothes, so to speak, and became the clean-up team. Put their rubber gloves and apron on. As the environment changed, they changed. They now become the exterminators. Then eventually the undertakers, till those microbes successfully brought cat back to dust. And in the case of the egg, till eventually they brought the egg back to dust. Now that egg, booted out of the nest, we don't have it anywhere near the house, very bad smell. And maybe every day in my experiment I wear a mask so I can have a look and see what that egg's doing. Eventually it is brought back to dust. We lived up in a rainforest with no electricity for many years, and one day the fridge wasn't working. And Michael moved the fridge away and a little mouse had eaten away at the wires. And then I looked and there was a little pile of dust, a little bit of fur and a little bit of a tail. What did that used to be? Mouse. What brought mouse back to dust? Well, it wasn't an airtight container, so maybe a few blowflies helped with that process. But if nothing helped, the body's own microbes have the ability to bring the matter back to dust. In fact, if there wasn't for these microbes, there'd be so much rubbish on the planet, we wouldn't be able to walk on the planet. That's why if there's a manifestation of any of these in your house or in your body, you've got to find out why. And one of the ways they get into the body is a common form of medication that's been happening since about 1930, which is antibiotics. And if someone has a bad cold, what are they given? Antibiotics. If someone has a sore finger that's looking a bit pussy, what are they given? Antibiotics. What does that word mean? It means against life. And if we're living organisms, we have to get away from this kill mentality. Let me tell you how antibiotics were discovered. Alexander Fleming was growing bacteria in a flask in his laboratory. He came in one morning and it was all dead. And he put his detective hat on. Why is my bacteria dead? Nothing in the laboratory indicated it. There was an open window and it was morning and the sun was coming in. And there was a heavy dust on the sun's rays. He investigated, he looked further up, and in the next story he saw an open window, and in the open window there was a plate of fruit, and in the plate of fruit there was a mouldy orange. Do you remember the story from school days? That mould gives off a dust, and in that dust is its spore, and in that dust is a highly toxic gas designed to kill off anything that would compete with the mould's food source. What would try and get the mould's orange? Other bacteria, yeast and fungus. So the mould says, this is my orange, no one else is going to get it. I'm giving off a dust to kill anyone that might try and get my orange. That dust fell on Alexander Fleming's bacteria and killed it. So he called the mould penicillium. And he called the mould waste penicillium. He called the mould waste penicillic acid. And that penicillic acid is the penicillin that we know today. And penicillin has saved the lives of millions, granted. But this is why I like Florence Nightingale's story, because she was getting incredible results before antibiotics came along. Just imagine if antibiotics had been known then. Come in with the antibiotics, but the doctors didn't wash their hands between operation, but the sewage in the corridors wasn't changed, but the dead horse and the dead dog aren't taken out of the water that the men are drinking. You see, if you don't find the cause, you will never have a cure. If you don't turn the tap off, you're still going to be mopping up in the other corner. I think God, in His great wisdom, allowed Florence Nightingale's experience to happen so that we human beings might have a good look at these microbes before the antibiotics came along. I'm not against antibiotics. They have saved lives, they are saving lives, they will save lives. But we've got a problem today. It's the overuse of the antibiotic. They're not used for life-saving resorts. Well, they are, but they're also used for a cough, a sore finger, a sore foot. We've got to look back to what our grandmothers did. So that when we get a cold, we actually go to bed. We take lemon water. We put our feet in hot water with a spoonful of mustard. You know all those old remedies? On Wednesday night, I'll show you some of the old remedies. I raised 8 children without antibiotics, and they're all still alive. My son's 40 in February, and he's never had an antibiotic. Do you know, he might get through his whole life never having them. That's what it should be. Most people should go through their life never having them. And what's the old saying? A stitch in time saves 9. Nip it in the bud. If someone gets a sore foot, put a poultice on it. Do some hot and colds, and then it'll go away. But people don't know what to do, so the foot gets sorer, and then the line goes up the leg, and then the foot blows up, and oh, quick, we need it. Can you see that? And then the person's told, if you'd taken antibiotics earlier, it wouldn't have got to this. Actually, if you'd done hot and colds and grated potato, it wouldn't have got to that. Can you see that? Many are sick through education. That's why I believe the only hope of better things on planet Earth is the education of people in the right principles. That's from a little book called Ministry of Healing, and I think they have it in the store, yeah? Excellent book on healing in the human body. To date, they have tested 1.5 million different yeasts, molds and funguses, and 1,000 of those are known to cause disease in mankind. And every mold can have 2 or 3 different mold wastes, and different mold wastes affect different body parts. Now, there's a book, I think it's in the library here, called China Study. And Dr. Colin Campbell was asked to go to the Philippines, where children were dying of liver cancer between 8 and 10 years of age. And he found the common denominator was peanuts. And he found in every jar of peanut butter, he found Aspergillus, that's the mold. The mold was Aspergillus. But what was even more toxic than the mold, Aspergillus, was the mold waste, and that's aflatoxin. Aflatoxin causes liver cancer. You see, the children in the Philippines were dying of liver cancer, and it was in their peanut butter. You see, peanuts are not a nut, they're a legume, so they grow mold very easily. My husband is my biggest critique, and I'm glad, because if I can pass Michael, I'll pass anyone. He says, Barbara, if it doesn't make sense to a man, you've lost the men. That's what he says. He says, 1.5 million is a little bit over the top. I don't believe you. I said, check me out. He came back and said between 1.5 million and 5 million. I said, oh, thank you, Michael. Huh? This is big. Have you read in the Bible what the Bible says to do about mold? In the Old King James version of the Bible, it's called leprosy in the house, leprosy in the clothes, leprosy on the skin. It's the same Hebrew word. New International Version, it's mildew in the house, mildew on the clothes, infectious skin disease on the skin, but it's actually the same word. So what should it be correctly interpreted as? Mildew on the skin. And leprosy is a fungus infection. In fact, the Bible says you got to destroy that house. It says you got to burn those clothes, and you got to get the people away. Now, what we know now is the person can come away and just go on a diet to kill candida in the body, and that's what I'm going to show you now, is how you can do that. You see, the area of the mold aspect of disease is becoming quite popular, but not in medicine, because in medicine their most popular drugs put it into you. As you can see, the antibiotics. By the way, the human body can cope with about 2 courses in a lifetime. Did you hear that? So the human body, it can handle a little bit, but you know, a lot of people are becoming immune to antibiotics because 80% of the antibiotics that are made go to animals. So when people are eating flesh meat, they're actually getting some, and that's why antibiotics aren't working. And Golden Staph has just adapted and adjusted to every antibiotic that knocks it. What does it do? It adapts and adjusts. These microbes are constantly adapting and adjusting to the environment. That's why we've got to get away from the kill mentality and find out, why are they there? And what's the good of giving a person antibiotics if they're going back to a mouldy house? Or if they're sleeping on mouldy pillows every night? It can come in through 4 ways. You can ingest mold. It can be on the food. It can be in antibiotics. Number 2, it can come in through your skin. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. If there's a mouldy orange in your fruit tray, cover yourself, get some tongs, carefully take it outside. Throw it into the garden and let the microbes break it down. So you can come in through your skin, you can ingest it, you can breathe it in. That's why, do you remember what I said? Cover your mouth when you pick it up, because when you move it, the dust moves and you can breathe that in. And it can also be sexually transmitted. They're the 4 ways. Most sexually transmitted diseases are fungus. I met a man last week, he said, I used to sing, he was early 60s, I used to be a beautiful singer. Now I'm coughing. For 10 years I've coughed up lots of sputum with streaks of blood. I've had this test and this test and this test, and they've gone down with scopes and they've done this and this. I've gone to specialist after specialist. So I put my detective hat on. I said, have you ever smoked? No. Did your parents smoke? No. Have you ever had exposure to chemicals or mold, breathing them in? It must be something is breathed in. It's no rocket science, is it? It's just common sense. And his wife and he looked at each other and went, oh dear. I said, what? He said about 6 years ago, actually 10 years ago, it's when he started, he was shoveling mushroom compost all day long. Okay, students, what's happening? When you put that shovel into the mushroom compost, what's coming into the air? She said he was in bed for a week after he did that. Can you see that? I love the detective word. Investigate. This is a mirror. And for each one of you, different light bulbs will go off at different times. Aha. It's like the lady that said she had asthma from 5. So what does my detective hat say? What happened at 5? Oh, we moved into another house. Anything remarkable about that house? Oh, the corner of the lounge room, the carpet used to grow little mushrooms. Aha. And you know, children are down there, they're breathing in it more than the adults. And I tell you, Brother Moses, who was 6'10", he wouldn't even get a whiff. But down there, can you see that? I said to this couple who the man lost his voice, I said, no need to go to any more specialists. And I showed him what you can do. And I have written a book on the subject. It's called Self-Heal by Design. Number 1, you've got to starve it. What does it love to eat? Come to Living Springs Health Retreat and go through a detox. It loves waste. Do a cleanse. The juices, they start to get the waste out of the body. Check your house. Make sure there's nothing in there. The fungal link with disease is big. In one chapter of my book, I quote many books that show the link between basically every disease. And one part of my book shows the link between cancer and fungus. A person can have a fungus yeast in their body and not have cancer, but it definitely can develop into that. So you've got to make sure there is no mold in your house. If there is, you've got to put your detective hat on and find out why. Is it because there's something wrong with the air conditioner? Is it because there's a leaking tap behind the wall? Is it because the drains aren't draining well because they're built? You've got to find out why. One lady said she always used to get mould in her bathroom, so she got an exhaust fan put in, and for 20 minutes after every shower she keeps that fan on. That's what you've got to do. One of the good things about air conditioners is they dry the air out, and that helps to prevent mould. But you've got to look at where the pipes of the air conditioner are and the dripping of the water, that it's not in the walls. That can cause problems. Number 2, kill. I do think we've got to get away from the kill mentality, but God in His great mercy and wisdom has given us herbs that will kill mould and won't kill us. And in my book I list quite a few. So well-known one is garlic. Another is grapefruit seed extract. That's very potent. If ever you eat a grapefruit, don't forget every now and then to just put your teeth on the seed. You'll think the grapefruit's sweet once you taste what's in that seed. It's very bitter, but it's a fungal killer. And olive leaf extract. Olive leaf extract has some strong actives in there that kill fungus. And there are also is a South American herb called pordiaco. Now, because our bodies get used to things, just as the microbes get used to things, so do the cells. Cells and microbes all adapt. Everything in God's creation adapts and adjusts. So I suggest 2 weeks on this, and before the microbes have got used to it, change it. Go to grapefruit seed extract for 2 weeks, go to olive leaf extract for 2 weeks, so you can see you can alternate it. There are also some very good essential oils. Oregano is a strong one. Clove oil is a strong one. Thyme oil. They're all very strong antifungals. In Psalm 104 verse 14, the Bible says that God gave herbs for the service of man. They're there to serve you. They don't kill you. Also, the third point is to bring back the balance. Every morning early we are giving you each a probiotic. Probiotic means for life. So we aim to flood the gastrointestinal tract with the good guys, the probiotics. The Lactobacillus acidophilus bifidus bacteriums help to replenish this gut flora and brings back the balance. Number 4, alkalize. Fungus and cancer love an acid environment. On Thursday I'll be giving a whole lecture showing you the alkaline forming foods and the acid forming foods. But briefly right now, all your vegetables are alkalizing. All your vegetables are alkaline forming. So on these 2 days, on your juices, everything we give you is alkaline. In the human body tissues, everything's alkaline except for stomach's acid, as you'll see tonight when we look at the gut. But the waste that's coming out of your body is acid. So alkalizing the tissues with a more alkaline diet. On Thursday I'll be defining the legumes and grains that are alkaline forming. Number 5 is the 8 laws of health. And we'll be looking at those as we go through the week from Wednesday. The 8 laws of health are basically fresh air, sunshine. What does sun do to fungus? Wipes it out. Make time this week to sit in the sun. It's not sunny today, but I'm sure it will return. Also, the third law is temperance, not taking anything into the body that will harm it, and I'll be defining that on Wednesday, and taking in moderation the good things. The 4th law is rest, very important, to sleep through the night. But don't be surprised this week while you're on the detox if there are times where you feel very, very tired. Please have a little nap. Probably try and have your nap in the earlier part of the day, maybe not past about 2 o'clock, because it might interfere with your nighttime sleep. And if you're worried that you're going to sleep too long, just tell someone. Just maybe one of the staff or your friend. So that's rest, and you'll also discover when I look at rest in detail that there are hours where you sleep the best, where your body recharges, where healing accelerates. And at the moment with daylight saving, that's been between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. So make sure you're in bed with the light off and totally asleep, or totally closed eyes and resting in those hours to get your recharging. So going through the 8 laws of health. So that's the 4th law. The 5th law is exercise. You would not detox very well if all you did was sit down all day. And you would not detox very well if you walked all day long. It's a balance between times of rest and times of activity. But the easiest and gentlest, most effective form is the rebounder. So just all you have to do, this is called the health bounce. I'm doing the health bounce right now. So if you can't do much, even just to do the health bounce, because every cell in the body is getting a zoom there. And what beautiful countryside is here. So make time to go on some walks outside. So exercise, the right amount exercises, alkalizes the human body. The next law is proper diet. And we'll be showing you that diet. We'll be giving it to you. We gave you an example yesterday with lunch, so a plant-based diet. And the 7th law is water. We'd like you to maintain full hydration so your body can detox effectively. So that's approximately 8 glasses a day, spread out over 24 hours. Everyone has a glass of water when I say that. And the last law is trust in divine power. The great God of heaven made this body. The great God of heaven gives us the tools to keep it well. And the great God of heaven blesses every effort to get the body back into good working order. He just needs you to trust him. And in Isaiah 26 verse 3, the Bible says, "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, he whose mind is stayed upon thee, because he trusteth in thee." Do you know, this week, because you've got a bit of time on your hand, take a Bible verse that you love, make it your Living Springs Bible verse, and go over it every day. Takes me a whole week to memorize one verse. You might be quicker than me. But start today in grabbing one of those verses, and it will keep your mind. So adhering to those 8 laws of health brings about an alkaline environment. It's very simple, isn't it? And I believe God meant it to be simple. But the most powerful way to bring about a healing response in your body is to stop eating. Huge amount of blood and energy is required to digest a meal. Approximately 1,200 calories is required to digest one meal. So when you're not digesting, when your body is just having juices, now your body goes into basically a cleanup mentality. So it says, wow, we've got time to go to those areas of the body that aren't working very well. And that explains why fasting has been used for centuries, definitely all through Europe, in giving the body the right conditions for healing. Tomorrow my first lecture is on the liver, and in the liver I will explain why we shouldn't go on too long a fast. 2 days is the best. I'll explain that tomorrow. So what your body's doing now is it's starting to go to the areas of greatest need, but before regeneration or restoration can happen, it has to clean the house. Clean house is the first step, isn't it? You would never paint a dirty wall. When you're looking at renovation, you rebuild, you clean it, and then you do the final touches. So it's got a clean house. Now as it cleans house, the body throws off the waste via 4 organs of elimination. And the largest organ of elimination is the skin. People don't often think of the skin as an organ of elimination. And the skin is an amazing creation because there are millions of little pores, and Dr. Kellogg called those millions of little pores millions of little sewers. Oh, because that's what they're doing. They're doing three things, those pores. They're throwing off waste. They are breathing. Did you know that your skin breathes? And it also absorbs anything that you put it on. I don't advocate herbal alcoholic tinctures because of the alcohol. But if you put a herbal alcoholic tincture on your skin, within 2 minutes your body has absorbed the herbs and not the alcohol. That's good to know, isn't it? So your skin needs to breathe. There's the very sad story of the little girl who was painted gold to be an angel in a play, and she died. And I don't know whether you've heard of Mythbusters. It's a show that busts myth. They were going to bust the myth that, you know, you can't coat your whole body. So the story goes like this. The guy was there, they were painting him. They got down to the last little section and he basically started to die. Cameramen were dropping their cameras, people were running, and well, they didn't bust that myth, did they? Because it's fact. Your skin breathes. So be very careful what you put on it, because it not only breathes, but it also takes in the things you put on it. And as I mentioned earlier, that's why you've got to be careful what you wash your clothes in, because there are remnants of washing detergent, no matter how well you rinse it, still on your clothes. So be careful what you're putting on your skin. If you discover that your beautifully smelling moisturizer is full of nasties and your skin's a little dry, if you ask the staff, we'll give you a little coconut oil and you can rub that in. It might be a little oily at first, but in only 5 minutes you'll find that it is soaked in quite nicely. Allow your skin to breathe, and the clothes that are touching your torso must be washed every day, because your body's throwing off a lot of waste on this detox. One lady said to me, she said, I thought the lady I was sitting next to had very bad BO. She said, I thought I won't sit next to her again. And then a few hours later she was in her room and she put her arm up to get something and she got the same smell. She realised it was herself. On the detox, you're going to be throwing off a lot of waste. So we'd like you to have at least 2 showers a day while you're on the detox. 1 shower can be your steam bath, and if you're still perspiring after your steam bath, by all means have a shower at the end of that. Another good time is after your morning walk, or maybe even after the lecture. So try and have a couple of washes a day, because you're going to be releasing more waste than usual through your skin. And please change the clothes that are touching your torso. So your outside skirt or pants or your outside jacket, they don't need to be washed, but really what's touching your torso. That will help your skin to breathe. Your skin also needs water. It is water that the body uses to throw off waste via the skin. So you need to be drinking adequate water. If you have a glass of water as soon as you wake up, and then you'll have another glass of water with the lemon aloe in it, that's 1/4 of your daily requirements before you even walk. So you can see, looking at it like that, you can easily do it. If you have a glass of water between every juice, you'll easily make up your 8 glasses. Also, water out, as I just mentioned, the showers, but the most powerful way to get the waste out of your skin is the steam bath. That's why it's a very important part of the detox program. The only part of your body that doesn't like getting hot is your brain. So we supply you with a little water with a washer, and with a face cloth. If you want ice in that water, just round the corner, you just say to the staff, we've got ice. So just keep mopping your brow, so to speak, and make sure when you have the cold rinse that you have a good dousing of cold. You will notice if you have a good dousing of cold, you can bear the hot a little bit more. Your skin also needs you to exercise, because when you exercise, you increase the circulation of the blood to the skin. And when you increase the circulation of the blood to the skin, you increase your skin's ability to throw off the waste. So please take time to do several little exercise bouts through the day. Jeffrey takes you on the morning walk, but please try and put a couple more into the day, maybe a walk, maybe a couple of goes on the rebounder. You see, your lymphatic system is your body's vacuum cleaner. Do you know what that means? It's vacuuming up waste from all in the tissues, dumps it in the blood. But it dumps it in the blood from the lymphatic system. So when you're on the rebounder, say you're jigging like this, ideally you start jumping a bit. Every time you lift up, at that split second, every little gateway in your lymphatic system opens. Then when you hit the mat, they close. And then when you're up in the air, they open. So see, there's this pumping system, pumping waste out of your tissues. So try and do some rebounding every day. 1 minute will stimulate your lymphatic system more than 60%. 1 minute. So what I do is when I'm on the rebounder, I go 1 and 2 and, but when I'm up to 13, it's 13, 14, so that count is 1 minute. So just a minute here and there will stimulate your body's vacuum cleaner, which is absolutely vital while you're on the detox. And if you have swelling in any part of your body, it will help to dispel that fluid. So that's part of your exercise. The second organ of elimination are your lungs, and your lungs need fresh air. And we go to great lengths here at Living Springs to make sure you've got fresh air. The facilities are lovely and clean, aren't they? And there are nice big windows. Last night my window was open this much. It was a little cool, so I would make sure I got warm blankets, and if you're not warm enough, we've got more blankets we can give you. We want you to be warm. On the detox program, fasting, you can often feel the cool a little bit more. We're warm-blooded creatures and we must be warm. So we want you to be warm, but we also want you to be breathing fresh air in. So make sure those windows are open a little bit, and make sure you go outside and do some fresh air exercises every day. Your lungs also need the exercise. Exercise increases your lung capacity. Right now you're breathing in 500 ml and you're breathing out 500 ml. When you walk up one of those hills out there fast and you start breathing very deeply, you're breathing in 3,600 ml and you're breathing out 3,600 ml. So hopefully sometime today when you walk up those hills, or maybe jog on the rebounder, you jog on the rebounder, that'll really get your lungs moving. Picture the 3,600 ml you're breathing in and the 3,600 ml of waste you're breathing out. Your lungs have a minuscule droplet of water in every alveoli, and because of the surface tension of water, that allows the alveoli to collapse, which gets rid of just about all your carbon dioxide, so there's room for a good quota of oxygen when you breathe in. If you're dehydrated, you cannot take up as much oxygen as when you're fully hydrated. Your kidneys filter the blood, and they do a very effective job at filtering the blood, but it gets very difficult for them to filter the blood if the blood is thick. So it's very important that we be drinking adequate water. Again, 8 glasses of water a day. Now, to make sure that your body is accepting that water inside the cell, it's important for you to have the whole salt, just a little crystal, on your tongue as you start every glass of water. Your body can more fully utilize that water if you sip it. A couple of mouthfuls, 5 minutes later, a couple more mouthfuls, a few minutes later, a couple more mouthfuls. I was talking to a lady just 2 nights ago. She said, Barbara, if I have salt in the morning, it just makes me sick. So I began to investigate. And I found out that she's drinking is 32 ounces. That's 4 glasses, yeah? 32 ounces in one go. I said, I'm surprised you're not vomiting. That's all in one go. I said, no, no, no. Do you know that puts a huge strain on your kidneys? It's almost as if your kidneys go, oh no, look at this. Flood. What happens in a flood? I said, I drink a litre. A litre's a quart. That's 32 ounces before breakfast. But I'm starting at 5 and I'm finishing at 6:30. You've got to spread it out. When you wake up, a few mouthfuls. Go to the bathroom, a few more mouthfuls. Get dressed, a few more mouthfuls. Say your prayer, a few more mouthfuls. And so in half an hour you can easily have three glasses of water. So I said, you just got to spread it out. And she went, oh. So water's important. And in the 8 laws of health it says use of water, meaning there's a way to drink it and there's a way not to drink it. So just have it little by little by little. And especially elderly people that balk at drinking water because it's just too much for them and they're worried about being able to make it to the bathroom. If they sip it little by little by little, they should not get that urgency. And if you tell them it like that, just give them a little glass at a time and be amazed how much can be drunk in a day just by little, little, little. And that little bit of salt's taken at the beginning of every glass. Your kidneys also need to be warm. You see, your kidneys are fairly close to your skin. And when the skin is cold, which many people that don't wear enough around their torso, the kidneys get cold. If the kidneys are cold, the blood's not going to go into the kidneys. If the blood's not going into the kidney, the blood's not going to get filtered, and then the waste will build up in the blood, and then who's going to come along to clean up the waste, students? There's your UTIs. You see that? When a lady has a UTI infection, a urinary tract infection, and she goes to the doctor, does he ask her how much water she's drinking a day? Does he ask her if she's exercising? Does he ask her how much caffeine she's drinking, which dehydrates? Is he asking if she's keeping her kidneys warm? Unfortunately, some girls would look at that doctor and go, huh, and find a doctor that will give them the antibiotics. So you've got to find out why. So the kidneys must be warm. The kidneys also need you to exercise, because when you exercise, you increase the circulation of the blood to the kidneys. And when you exercise, your kidneys move. Let's say you're on your morning walk. See your kidneys? Every step you take, they're being strengthened and toned to perform their work. And when you're on the rebounder, every little jig you're doing, the kidneys are doing this. So exercise strengthens the kidneys. The colon is the next organ of elimination. Now, only microscopic waste can come out of these 3 organs. The colon eliminates the largest pieces of waste. And the colon has a mind of its own. Have you noticed? If you tell it to go, it won't. And if you tell it to stop, it won't. No, the colon needs gentle stimulation. The colon needs gentle stimulation. What stimulates the colon? Laughter. No wonder Proverbs 17:22 says, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. You know, it can also dry up the colon. So relax, laugh. You know, children laugh 125 times a day, so should we. We should laugh more. Laughter is good medicine. Laughter relaxes the colon. The colon also needs water. One of the main functions of the colon is to take water out so stools are formed. If you're dehydrated, more water gets taken out than should be taken out. And then you're left with rabbit pellets and cement. And if someone can't go, they like to strain, and never should we do that. Now let me show you a position that helps. This is the throne. And when someone is sitting on the throne, the last part of the colon is partly closed. let me explain. Here is the colon, and there's the appendix, there's the small intestine, and we'll look at this in a bit more detail tonight. And the last part of the colon, there's a loop, and it is held up by a muscle called puborectalis. And when the person is sitting, puborectalis remains taut. But if a person has a little stool or bed, bath and beyond, you can buy squatty potties that go around the toilet. Let's say someone's sitting on that and their feet are on the stool. Can you see it's mimicking the squatting position? And when those knees are up in a squatting position, puborectalis relaxes, and that causes the large part of the colon to totally open, so the stools are released without hardly any effort. And in many countries today, people still squat. If you go to Asia, you go to India, you go to Africa, there's still, and you go into the bathroom, oops, it's a hole in the floor. It's all nicely tiled and everything, but to squat. Now, for people that can't squat, my suggestion is you just start going like this every day and just holding that position, and that will strengthen your quads, because often it's the quads that stop. But if people have sore knees, ankles, and makes it difficult, this little stool in front makes it quite easy. So it's a great way to prevent hemorrhoids. It's a great way to heal hemorrhoids, because you're taking all pressure off that last bit. One lady said to me after she'd been using the squatty potty for a while, she said, I feel like I haven't totally gone. And she said, I have a little look, and I certainly have. Because the squatting relaxes puborectalis, which opens the colon so that the contents can be passed with ease. So the colon also needs the proper position, as I have just shown you, and the colon also needs you to exercise, because when you exercise you increase the circulation of the blood to the colon, and when you exercise you're exercising the colon. As with the kidneys, every step you take the colon is moving, and when you're rebounding, every little jump, it's being strengthened. And by the way, if you've got a little rebound, a mini trampoline in your home, and you've got children, where are they? They're jumping. It's time for us to jump. If you can't jump, you just start with the little jig. It's called the health bounce. Just start with that. And if you're unstable on your feet, you can buy rebounders that have got a frame, and you can hold on to the frame. If you have a rebounder without a frame, you just need to go through near a bench and hold on to the bench or a chair. But the very act of rebounding actually re-establishes your balance. Back to the colon and stimulation. But probably what stimulates the colon more than anything is fibre. And the highest fibre food is a plant-based diet, especially your vegetables. Now on the detox, we are not giving you fibre for 2.5 days. And so we're going to offer you herbs. And the herbs that we offer you are herbs in the form of colon tea. We call it colon tea because they are herbs that gently stimulate, revive and restore the function of the colon. You see, what fibre does is it cleans out all the little pockets. Fibre stimulates peristalsis all through, and the herbs will stimulate the peristalsis, and in 2 days' time we will feed you solid food again, and once again fibre will come in. Because you're on a detox, it's very important that the colon move every day. We'd like you ideally to be evacuating at least once, ideally twice a day. So you can discuss this with the staff at night. So we offer a herb tea to those that need it at night. We don't give it to everyone because not everyone needs it. So we need your feedback here. You're the doctor here. If you do not have an evacuation by the middle of the day today, please go and see the staff and they'll give you a little bit more. So the first few days are feeling our way a little bit to see how much you need. So obviously with such a subject we're not going to make announcements and get everyone to feedback in those announcements. So please dialogue with the staff, because if you do not go for 3 or 4 days you could get quite sick. So please discuss with the staff if you need more or less, or everything's fine. Thank you for your attention this morning, and tomorrow we're going straight to your project manager, which is your liver.